Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching The World Report. Let's first take a look at our top stories. Top US and Russian officials are currently holding talks in Saudi Arabia to start discussions on a potential end to the war in Ukraine. This follows a meeting with European leaders in Paris, where a turning point has been reached amid continued calls for an EU seat in any peace talks. A judge is expected to make a ruling within the next 24 hours over whether Musk's Doge powers will be curtailed. Tens of thousands of governmental layoffs have led to legal action by Democratic state attorneys general, while Musk's access to state departments has also been questioned. Israel's troops are set to stay in 5 locations across Lebanon despite a deadline passing for a full withdrawal. Meanwhile, an Israeli strike in southern Lebanon has killed the military head of Hamas. Staying in the Middle East, and Israel is to set up a government agency to allow Palestinians to leave Gaza as they throw support behind Trump's displacement plans. Hamas has rejected disarmament, vowing to continue the fight with Israel while nearly 300 aid trucks have entered Gaza. Another plane crash has taken place in North America, which has left 18 people injured. A Delta Airlines flipped upside down while landing at Toronto's Pearson Airport. Here is the full update.
18 injured passengers have been transported to local hospitals after a Delta Airlines crashed while landing. This took place at Toronto's Pearson Airport. Endeavour Air Flight 4819, with 76 passengers and 4 crew, was landing in the afternoon in Canada's largest metropolis, having flown from Minneapolis in the US state of Minnesota. No explanation of the cause of the accident or how the plane ended up flipped with its wings clipped has been provided. According to paramedics, 3 people were critically injured: a child, a man in his 60s and a woman in her 40s.
First and foremost, there was no loss of life, and this is in due part to our heroic and trained professionals, our first responders at the airport. Airport emergency workers mounted a textbook response, reaching the site within minutes and quickly evacuating the passengers.
Dramatic images on local broadcasts and shared on social media showed people stumbling away from the upside-down CRJ-900 plane, shielding their faces from strong gusts of wind and blowing snow. Canada's Transportation Safety Board, assisted by the US Federal Aviation Administration, deployed a team of investigators to the site of the crash. The crash comes after other recent air incidents in North America, including a mid-air collision between a US Army helicopter and a passenger jet in Washington that killed 67 people, and a medical transport plane crash in Philadelphia that left 7 dead. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Now let's take a look at the latest updates from across Europe. European imports of liquefied natural gas dropped by 19% last year to the lowest levels since 2021. Despite this decline, billions are still being invested in new LNG import terminals, potentially leading to underused infrastructure. The report from the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis warns of overinvestment as Europe transitions to renewable energy. The Swedish court sentenced 4 men to prison for their involvement with the Islamic State. They were involved in weapons training and propaganda activities in Somalia. All these men, who were from Sweden, were sentenced to between 3 and 6.5 years in prison. Although 3 of them faced charges of preparing a terrorist crime in Sweden, the court acquitted them due to a lack of evidence for a clear plan. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has vowed to continue her plan to deport irregular migrants to camps in Albania. She is doing it despite facing opposition from national judges. The plan, which has faced legal challenges over concerns about migrant safety, aims to curb arrivals, but on the other side, courts have blocked the transfers. Meloni hopes the European Court of Justice will clarify the legality of the scheme in a ruling later this month. The United Nations has made a statement saying that fishing trawlers are the leading cause of damage to critical undersea cables in the Baltic Sea. The undersea cables vital to global internet traffic. The UN is pushing for enhanced security measures and international cooperation to protect this infrastructure. Finland has rebranded its former Lenin Museum in Tampa with the name Nuti to focus on Finnish-Russian political relations. The museum, which had long depicted Soviet history, closed in November and reopened this month with a new focus. It also highlights symbolic displays like a bicycle used by an asylum seeker crossing the Finnish-Russian border in 2023. The rebranding has sparked some controversy, including conspiracy theories in Russia. Meanwhile, Russia has angrily responded to Italian President Sergio Mattarella's comparison of Russia's invasion of Ukraine to Nazi Germany's aggression in World War II. Mattarella made the comments during a speech at the University of Marseille, condemning authoritarianism and warns of conquest. The Russian's foreign ministry warned of consequences, accusing Italy of spreading false historical parallels and supporting Ukraine with weapons. The UN has appealed for $6 billion to provide aid to people in war-torn Sudan. As stated by United Nations, the aim is to provide assistance to nearly 26 million people in 2025. The UN agency said the civil war has displaced 12 million people and 3.5 million have already fled the country. Watch the latest in this report.
The United Nations has launched a $6 billion humanitarian appeal to assist Sudanese affected by the ongoing conflict, both inside Sudan and in neighbouring countries.
We're here today to launch two plans. Together, they request $6 billion to support close to 21 million people in Sudan and up to 5 million others, primarily refugees, in neighbouring countries.
The aid is reportedly going to assist nearly 26 million Sudanese people both inside Sudan and in neighbouring countries. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs announced that today, nearly 2 years of conflict have displaced a staggering 12 million people in Sudan and across borders. It also mentioned that nearly 2/3 of Sudan's population is in urgent need of emergency assistance, while the country faces widespread famine. As per reports, Sudan has been embroiled in a devastating conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces since mid-April 2023, resulting in nearly 30,000 reported fatalities by the end of 2024. And many research groups say the real death toll could be far higher. Last year, humanitarian organizations received $1.8 billion for Sudan and managed to reach more than 15.6 million people across the country. They even provided life-saving food assistance to over 1 million people in neighbouring countries, as well as medical support to 500,000 and protection services to over 8 lakh people. As per the United Nations top official, more than 1 in 2 people in war-torn Sudan have too little to eat. Famine is taking hold and sexual violence is rife. Bureau report.
Now let's take a look at some updates coming in from across the world of business. Tiger Brokers incorporated DeepSeek's AI model in its chatbot Tiger GPT to further its market trend and investment opportunity analysis capabilities. More than 20 Chinese fund managers and brokers are adopting DeepSeek's models for research, risk management and client interaction. The partnership, set to drive faster AI adoption in finance, is projected to increase financial IT expenditure by 24% within 5 years. Tiger GPT's new version will first be available free of charge in China and Singapore, providing advanced analysis to traders. Vietnam is set to introduce new rules allowing Elon Musk's Starlink to provide satellite internet with full foreign ownership of local offices for the duration of a pilot program running until 2030. The shift comes after the discussions with SpaceX and is seen as being prompted by tariff concerns expressed by US President Donald Trump. The move is part of Vietnam's efforts to boost innovation and has the potential to cut the country's $123.5 billion trade surplus with America. The first cut since November 2020 due to a significant decline in inflation. However, the Reserve Bank is still cautious about cutting interest rates further due to global uncertainties. Prime Minister Albanese's government appreciated the move in advance of the May election, hoping to ease the cost of living pressures. Yet most Australian families still pay higher prices for food, fuel and shelter despite the softening inflation. Elon Musk's AI firm xAI introduced Grok 3 and 10 times more capable chatbots. The launch is raising eyebrows over Musk's possible conflict of interests as he transforms US government agencies while having significant substantial business interests. Grok 3 will compete with ChatGPT and China's DeepSeek in the AI race. The launch comes after Musk's attempts to raise a $10 billion funding round for xAI, which is worth $75 billion. The Federal Aviation Administration terminated fewer than 400 probationary workers, all of whom were employed in the last year due to air traffic safety concerns. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy assured no air traffic controllers or critical safety staff were affected. With the shortage of 3,500 controllers and 800 technicians, critics such as Senator Maria Campbell warned the firings could increase risks to air safety. The FAA continues to recruit additional controllers and safety staff. European futures hit high record levels on Tuesday, led by a rally in defence stocks as investors anticipated higher spending. Hong Kong shares neared 3-year highs as investors welcomed a meeting between business leaders and President Xi Jinping. The Reserve Bank of Australia began its rate-cutting cycle as expected, and the Australian dollar remained firm at $0.6350, with the central bank warning against further rate cuts. The meeting on Monday, hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron, brought together the heads of the government from Denmark, Spain, the Netherlands, Germany, Poland, the United Kingdom and Italy. The summit aimed to gather partners interested in peace and security in Europe. Here is the latest.
European leaders gathered for talks on European security in Ukraine in Paris. The summit was called by French President Emmanuel Macron to agree on a coordinated response to a shock policy shift on the war in Ukraine by the new US administration of Donald Trump. Macron stated that a strong and lasting peace in Ukraine was the ultimate goal. He emphasized that to achieve this, Russia must cease its aggression, and this should be paired with robust and credible security guarantees for Ukraine. He underscored that without such measures, any potential ceasefire would likely be temporary and ineffective. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said the leaders discussed how Europe and Germany can strengthen their security and defense. Scholz emphasized the importance of ensuring countries meet NATO's 2% defense spending target and expressed confidence in a long-term commitment to funding defense in Europe.
Für uns ist sehr klar, wir müssen die Ukraine weiter unterstützen und sie muss und kann sich auf uns verlassen, dass das der Fall sein wird. Wir begrüßen, dass es Gespräche gibt über Friedensentwicklung, aber für uns muss und ist klar sein und ist klar, das bedeutet nicht, dass es einen Diktatfrieden geben kann und dass die Ukraine akzeptieren muss, was ihr präsentiert wird.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer called Ukraine's future an existential issue for Europe, stressing that European support requires US security guarantees. He expressed willingness to send UK troops for a peacekeeping mission if a lasting ceasefire is reached, but emphasized that US backing is crucial to prevent further Russian aggression.
And I'm prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground alongside others if there is a lasting peace agreement. But there must be a US backstop, because a US security guarantee is the only way to effectively deter Russia from attacking Ukraine again. So I will go to Washington next week to meet President Trump and to discuss what we see as the key elements of a lasting peace.
According to Danish PM Mette Frederiksen, who spoke following the meeting in Paris, said that Russia is a real threat to the security and safety of all of Europe, and thus our freedom.
The most important thing about this meeting tonight is the need for all of us to step up when it comes to our spendings on defense. Russia is not only a threat against Ukraine, but all of us. So we need to scale up and we need to speed up.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky arrived in Turkey for talks with President Erdogan on prisoner exchanges and other issues. He also criticized the US for attempting to please Moscow in Ukraine discussions and warned of Europe's military weakness. Following the shocks delivered by the Trump administration, European leaders held emergency talks in Paris as US and Russian officials prepare to meet in Saudi Arabia to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. There will be no European or Ukrainian involvement in the meeting. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We'll now take a look at the latest news from across North America. The death toll from severe winter storms in central and eastern US has grown to at least 14, with heavy flooding, winds and cold affecting the region. Kentucky has seen the most casualties, with 12 people dead, including a mother and child trapped in floodwaters. The National Weather Service forecasted record colds, with wind chills hitting negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit in the Midwest. Over 50,000 people are still without electricity as authorities continue rescue efforts in the affected states. The New York City Council leader has demanded the resignation of Mayor Eric Adams after the Justice Department dropped corruption charges against him. 4 deputy mayors resigned as well, citing recent incidents of a loss of confidence in Adams' administration. The situation worsened when several prosecutors resigned due to the case being dropped. Despite the chaos, Adams expressed disappointment but understood the resignations as the case may still be pursued in the future. The White House confirmed in court that Elon Musk, who was appointed by President Trump to head the Department of Government Efficiency, is not a DOGE employee and has no decision-making power. Musk is a senior advisor to the president, but does not make government decisions. The clarification comes after a New Mexico lawsuit. Musk-led DOGE is advocating for government reforms, but faces legal obstacles such as access denial to US Treasury systems. The Democratic Republic of Congo has criticised the UN Security Council for inaction following the takeover of Bukavu in South Kivu by M23 rebels. Congolese Ambassador Zenon Mukongo Ngay, in a letter, accused the Council of paralysis, with Rwandan troops and M23 occupying Congolese territory. He urged the Council to take action. A French-led draft resolution calls for stopping M23's advance, withdrawing Rwandan troops and restarting negotiations between Rwanda and the DRC. Mexico has seized 200 kilos of methamphetamine and more than 12,000 litres of chemical precursors in Sinaloa, approximately $40 million, as a measure to curb drug trafficking. Authorities have since February 5th also seized 4.9 tonnes of meth, 453 kilos of cocaine and 55 kilos of fentanyl and several hundred firearms. This comes amid pressure from US President Trump, who had threatened to impose tariffs on Mexican imports for drug smuggling, but postponed them after Mexico sent more troops to the border. Israeli forces withdrew from border villages in southern Lebanon after a US brokered ceasefire, but remained in 5 strategic positions inside Lebanon. Lebanese leaders condemned this as a violation of the agreement. Assisting, Israel was required to fully withdraw by the deadline. Hezbollah also opposed the continued presence of Israeli troops, pressuring authorities to take action. Here is more in this development.
Israel's forces are withdrawing from southern Lebanon today, though 5 key positions will remain under Israeli control. Despite the deadline, Israel insists on keeping troops at 5 hilltop locations for security, citing the need to protect northern communities. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun warns that any Israeli presence past the deadline will be seen as an occupation, and Lebanon will respond accordingly. Lebanon plans to call on the UN Security Council to ensure full compliance with the ceasefire agreement. Hezbollah accuses Israel of breaching the ceasefire, while Lebanon continues to demand a complete Israeli withdrawal from its territory. Israel defends the presence of its troops at 5 locations, with US-led approval, but Lebanon continues to push for full withdrawal. The ongoing conflict has left thousands of Lebanese civilians dead or displaced, with both sides hoping for lasting peace through the ceasefire. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's now take a look at the latest updates from across South America. Temperatures in Rio de Janeiro hit a record 44 degrees Celsius as pre-carnival celebrations continued. This is the highest temperature on record since 2014. The extreme heat has led to over 3,000 emergency cases in January, mostly for dehydration and sunburn. Despite the heat, the city has not cancelled the carnival, but is urging people to stay hydrated. A bus crash in Bolivia has killed at least 30 people and wounded several others. Officials believe that the cause of the crash was overspeeding and that the driver lost control of the vehicle, causing it to drop nearly 800 metres off a cliff in the southwestern municipality of Yocala. Deadly road accidents are common in Bolivia and on average kill 1,400 people every year. Brazilian environmental agents seized over 5,000 truckloads of illegal timber in recent weeks in an operation targeting illegal logging in the Amazon. The two-week raid, part of Operation Maravala, focused on protected areas and indigenous lands in the states of Amazonas, Pará and Rondônia. Ambama, Brazil's environmental agency, closed sawmills and imposed fines totaling $2.7 million. The goal of this operation was to stop illegal logging, which contributes to deforestation. A federal judge ruled that there is enough evidence for formal charges against former Argentine President Alberto Fernandez for violence against former First Lady Fabiola Yanez. He has been accused of causing physical and psychological harm, including assaults during her pregnancy. Despite denying the allegations, Fernandez faces a potential 18-year prison sentence if convicted. Shakira resumed her world tour despite cancelling her performance earlier owing to a hospital visit. She was briefly admitted on Saturday night, which prompted her to call off her show. A new date for the cancelled show will be announced soon. Shakira is currently on her first world tour in 7 years, performing 50 concerts in Latin America. A US judge could rule within 24 hours on a lawsuit that aims to block Elon Musk's Doge team from accessing key government systems. The case was brought by 13 Democratic state attorneys general who argue Musk's team is dismantling programs and firing employees at federal agencies. The outcome of this case could significantly impact government restructuring efforts. Here's the latest.
A US judge could rule within 24 hours on a lawsuit seeking to block Elon Musk's Doge team from accessing key government systems. The case was heard on President's Day by US District Judge Tanya Chutkan in Washington, D.C. The lawsuit, filed by 13 Democratic state attorneys general, aims to prevent Musk's team from dismantling programs and firing employees at 7 federal agencies. They argue the team is jeopardizing essential services. The states argue Musk's team is using agency data to carry out mass firings and disrupt educational programs. Judge Chutkan questioned if there was immediate harm to meet the legal standard for a temporary restraining order. The attorneys general seek to bar Doge from accessing systems at the Departments of Labor, Education, Health and Human Services, and others. The lawsuit is part of a broader effort to challenge Musk's sweeping government overhaul. Since taking charge of the government overhaul, Musk's team has cut thousands of jobs across federal agencies. The states argue this drastic move is unauthorized and violates constitutional rules for government appointments. While the states push for an injunction, some judges have already ruled on related cases. U.S. District Judge Jeanette Vargas in New York blocked Doge from accessing Treasury systems, while other judges have denied similar requests. As the legal battle unfolds, many lawsuits are challenging Musk's authority to lead the government's efficiency efforts. The outcome could impact the future of federal agency operations and government restructuring. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Now let's take a look at the latest updates from across the Indo-Pacific region. North Korea has criticised the US and its Asian neighbours for pursuing what it's called the absurd goal of denuclearising the North. Officials have stated that now the country will push to expand its nuclear forces. Under the direction of authoritarian leader Kim Jong-un, the Foreign Ministry gave their statements following the meeting of top diplomats of the US, South Korea and Japan at a security conference in Germany. The ministry said the North will consistently bolster their nuclear force and would deter the US and its vessel forces from threats and blackmail against the North's sovereignty. Filipino Vice President Sara Duterte has asked the Supreme Court to void her impeachment. She also requested to block a Senate trial that could remove her from office. Her lawyers asked the 15-member High Court, stating that her trial was procedurally defective, constitutionally infirm and jurisdictionally void. She was impeached on the 5th of February over accusations that included plotting to assassinate the president and large-scale corruption. 4 Pakistani troops were killed overnight after militants ambushed them. They were responding to a prior attack on aid trucks in northwest Pakistan, which led to the shootout. The ambush happened hours after the authorities dispatched reinforcements for the air truck attack. The bodies of the 4 security forces were taken to a hospital. No groups have taken responsibility for the latest attack. China's President Xi Jinping has met with private sector business leaders. Reports tell us he's assured the leaders that policies regarding the private sector would not change. Among those present was Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba. He told the audience that the government would sincerely protect the legal rights of private businesses and entrepreneurs according to the law. Meanwhile, he also stated that they are a socialist country and any illegal activity by enterprises cannot avoid investigation and punishment. Officials have said that Japan will now allow people from Taiwan to list the island as their place of origin instead of China. After Tokyo normalised ties with Beijing in 1972, people from Taiwan were described as from China. According to a Justice Ministry official, this is set to change from May after ministry rules are revised, adding that the change follows requests from Taiwanese spouses who want to express their regional identity. Australia will soon deport 3 violent criminals, including a convicted murderer, to Nauru. This was when an Australian court ruled that dangerous immigrants can no longer be imprisoned indefinitely. Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke has stated that the 3 criminals have been issued 30-year Nauru visas. Meanwhile, opposition leaders told reporters that the government's claiming they're going to get rid of 3 criminals, but there'll still be more than 200 left. That is all we have time for, but we'll be back very soon with your latest international news.